نويت تعلم وتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقرب الثواب سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك علما لا يرسى في هني وهو غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علما لا يرسى في هني وغني. اللهم إنا نسألك علما لا يرسى في هني. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين. من كتاب أقاص حلقات التعاليم للحبيب عمر بن حفيظ نفعنا به وبعلومه في الدارين إلى أن قال. From the book Aims and Objectives of Secret Knowledge by the great knower of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-Habib Omar, may we be benefited by him and by his knowledge in the two abodes till where he has said. I think we finished fiqh, right? Okay, I mean we kind of like done fiqh. Okay, I'll skip all the fiqh, right, because it's all different mazhabs. We're just going to focus on the Shafi'i mazhab and even comparative fiqh and usul fiqh also. Right, this is like really higher texts that even when I was reading this book also they just read through it without much commentary, right? Because one thing it is really like if you're gonna go into the topic itself lah, right? Into the thing. So we're gonna go right into. We did Sirah also. I remember doing Sirah. Yeah, we did Sirah. Right. So on wayfaring, okay. So wayfaring. Right, so on the tasawwuf, adab, as-suluk. Right, did we go into all that also? Okay, then I'll just go into it. Okay, so I'll read through the Sirah part. Sirah, as-Sirah an-Nabawiyah. Right, so he arranged it in what you should teach your children. Right, so then with Sirah, you should focus on Sirah. Sirah an-Nabawiyah, Kitab as-Sirah an-Nabawiyah Sharifa lil-Haddar. Right, this is one of the books. This is the book that I'm using for Rubat. But it's a very thin book. Of course, the explanation I give more. But the book itself is very thin. And what needs to be memorized of the Sirah is in that thin book. What you need to memorize of the Sirah. Right. And also in the children's syllabus is already what needs to be memorized. It's in there. Right. It's already all in there. They're going to increase in what they're going to memorize of the Sirah as we go along. So Kitab Qabasat al-Nur al-Nabawiyah ni Sheikh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda. Right, so qabasat min nur an-nubuwah. Right, so qabasat is like just like a brief summary. Right, so just some very very small things. Right, so just a brief summary or like a pinch, you would say, or a handful, right, of the lights of the Sirah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is by Sheikh Abu Fattah Abu Ghudda. Right, he is one of the great Syrian sheikhs. He has written many books that inshallah after this book we will go into one of his books, which is the 40 methods of teaching, of prophetic teaching. Right, that is from Sheikh Abu Fattah Abu Ghudda. Right, so and I take from that book because Habib Umar himself has recommended the Sheikh. Right, so and Darul Musa they do take from Sheikh Abu Fattah Abu Ghudda. Right, he's one of the Syrian sheikhs. But even though usually most of what they teach in Hadramaut, they focus on the Hadrami books. Right, there are few Syrian books that they do take from, like Sheikh Buti, Sheikh Abu Fattah Abu Ghudda, of course Imam Nawawi, is taken from, a few here and there lah, right, but not so much. They don't really go further. They don't really go out of what the books of Hadramaut are. Right, in every place where you study, you will take the books of the people of the place. Right, so he's one of the great sheikhs lah, who has passed away. He was from Aleppo, right, which is now a ruined city, right, Aleppo, Halab. He's a Halabi. So then he says, Kitab Duruz al-Sirah Nabawiyah lil Habib Alawi bin Tahir al-Haddad. Right, this book is translated into English. If I'm not wrong, you can find it in. I'm not really finding one of the books. If I'm not wrong, it's translated into English, right? And then No. This the number three. Duruz al-Sirah an-Nabawiyah, Habib Alawi bin Tahir al-Haddad. There is a book, but also by a Syrian. On the lessons in every part of the Sirah, right? This female scholar, she is still alive today, and she is pushing the Syrian sisters here in Singapore to start classes on this book. Right, so inshallah, there are movements lah basically, because the Syrian asatiza, they are more or less very low key in Singapore, but there is a group. Right, they do exist, they are around, but they are what we call the hidden gems lah, who don't really talk to anybody. So like my cousin, she's going to try to mobilize them, right, because they're around Singapore, they're everywhere, right, but they're just like hidden gems lah. They don't really come out to teach, but they are around. And Anwar Muhammadiyah by Imam Yusuf An-Nabahani is also one of the great books. Imam Yusuf An-Nabahani, he is known as a knower of Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. He's a recent wali, and he is his whole family. Right, on a daily basis they see Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Right, so he is the one who wrote Wasail al-Wusul ila Shama'il al-Rasul. If you have heard of that Shama'il. Right, that Shama'il, it takes from the Shama'il of Imam Tirmidhi, but it only takes it compresses the riwayat. Right, so in Shama'il Imam Tirmidhi there are many repeating riwayats. Right, so what Shaykh Yusuf Nabahani has done in Wasal al-Wusul ila Shama'il al-Rasul, right, is that he has taken parts of Shama'il Imam Tirmidhi, but he doesn't repeat the hadith. So there's only one hadith of that. Maybe there are 3 or 4 similar hadiths, he takes one only. Right, so of that lah. So he is it is said that his Shama'il book was Shama'il Rasul. Shaykh Herodes has taught it. You can find it online. Right, it is like a full series lah. It's like 4 sets. Each set is about like 10, 30 lessons and whatsoever lah. It's very, very long. Right, but it is said that whosoever has gone through this book by Shaykh Yusuf Nabahani, they will definitely Insha'Allah, see Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because this is one of the books. I mean, the word Wasal al-Wusul Shama'il Rasul, it translates to mean the means and the ways, right, to arrive at the characteristics, right, of the noble messenger. Right, so whoever who goes through this book enough, right, inshallah, you will have a vision of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Right, it's one of the to do books, To-do books. It is translated into English, and it is translated into English and into Malay also. Both. I've seen the both translations. It's translated into English and Malay. I think I saw it at Wardah. If I'm not wrong, I saw it at Wardah.
In English, it's called.
I forgot. I think the translation is on top. Wasail al-Wusul al-Shama'il Rasul, and they have the English, what it's called, whatever it's called. Right, so, mashallah. Okay, so there are the Sirah books, and Sirah is taught from the very beginning, and Sirah you'll never finish learning Sirah. You learn it over and over and over and over and over again, and every time you learn Sirah, you will see more and more secrets lah, right, of the Sirah that's being shown to you. Okay, then the books of Adab and Suluk. And Habib Khadim, he mentioned before in one of our, in Darul Mustafa, every year they have what do you call it? What's it called? Still, I forgot what's the English word for it. They have a multaqa, conference, right? Yeah, I don't know. They have a conference in Darul Mustafa every year, which is a conference of the da'iyas. Right? So it's a conference of all people around the world who call to Islam. So all the da'iyas all over the world will come to Tarim in this part of the year, whereby they have a conference and they discuss the issues of the time, right? And how do we tackle these issues, right? So it's mashallah, it's been going on for quite some time, and every year from Egypt, from the UAE, from Syria, from all over the Islamic world, even from America, from Europe, they will all come down, right? Even from the Pesantren, right? Indonesia, Malaysia, all the da'iyas will come down to Tarim, and they will have like a 3-day conference whereby different scholars will present their papers, right, on things that is going on in our society. Which is important lah, because you have like science conferences around the world, you have like medicine conferences. You need to have a da'wah conference whereby people discuss ideas in da'wah and discuss the ills of society and the best ways, right? And they bring forward the hadith and the Quran and whatsoever lah. It's amazing lah. If you like the years that I was in Tarim, whereby I was sitting in and listening to them. Right, but it's mashallah lah. So there was one time where Habib Khadim, he presented a paper, right, and he presented about this thing about suluk, about adab and suluk being the first thing, right, to teach any student and any child. Right? So he says that first thing that you need to teach them before fiqh, before anything at all, they need to learn about their adab and their suluk. Because if they don't learn about their adab and their suluk, then that all of their knowledge will be used to destroy them. They will destroy themselves without adab and without suluk. That's why when it comes to da'wah also, the first thing in the Rasul Darul Zahra that they will teach you before you can go and call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that you need to know the signs of cleansing. Yeah, because otherwise da'wah is the strongest way by which shaitan will destroy you. Right? It is very quick. Da'wah, the signs of da'wah, to call people to Allah. I mean, basically being more and more religious without suluk, and without suluk is basically wayfaring towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, good character, right? Without this part of Islam, a person destroys himself, right? Because he gets more self-righteous, he gets more conceited, more arrogant, right? And he loses sight of what is the point, right, of his worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why the books of Imam Ghazali they're very important. The books of Imam Al-Haddad, they're very important, right? So as you remain rooted and grounded, right, in what you are doing. So even for children also, right, from the very beginning, suluk needs to be put into their syllabus, right, so that they understand, and this will protect them, inshallah, from feeling themselves as higher over anybody else. Because as much as you want them to be religious, right, you don't want that to be a shaitanic religiosity that Iblis had. Iblis had religiosity that was shaitanic. Right? Basically, he was religious. Iblis was religious, but it was like, I'm just the best person around. Like I cannot. No one is above me in how I obey Allah subhanahu wa taala. So religiosity can take that path, right? And there are many hadiths about ulama being the first to be flung into the hellfire. The first to be flung into the hellfire is the alim who did not call to Allah, but he called to himself. Right? So this is something that they will teach. So the first book that you will learn, right, in the Arabic, even in the Arabic course, and when you enter Darul Zahra, you enter in the Arabic, not even in the full course yet. The first book you will learn is The Glorious Treasure by Habib Omar. That book is translated into English. It is the Khaira Musharafa. It should be memorized and acted upon. This book basically, it has some elements of Aqidah in front. They're all Hadrami books. All Hadrami books they have three parts. They have Aqidah section, they have Fiqh section, and they have a Tasawwuf section. So because to show that when you learn a book, you must learn all three. You cannot just learn just Fiqh, or just Aqidah, or just Tasawwuf. You must learn all three together in the book. So this book is a very thin book. It's a very thin book. It's a kutayib. It's this size, and it's this thin. It's like that. It's a pocket book. Right? So you can bring everywhere. So it's the first book, inshallah. As they grow older, they will go into it. In the primary school, as they go in the syllabus, they will go into this book. Right? So it's Aqidah, basic fiqh, fardu ain, and then the suluk part, Habib teaches them the du'as of the day. What do you read before you sleep? What do you do when you wake up? And then good character lah. Basically, it's being taught in this book. The second book that needs to be taught is the beginning of guidance, Bidayatul Hidayah. Right, so that is the book, inshallah, we will be taking after this class, right, by Imam Al-Ghazali. That book, Imam Ghazali, he first speaks about the truth of knowledge. In the beginning of Bidayah Hidayah, he speaks about the truth of knowledge, and that knowledge is of no worth unless it is sought for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, so for as long as you mix your own desires into knowledge, you are just wasting your time. That's it. Imam Ghazali, you know his words, like the way he speaks. He's very, that's it. There's no way around this. Right? For as long as you mix yourself in what you study, right? Yourself needs to be removed completely as you go on. So the beginning of guidance, the entire book has the Aqidah part. Then it goes into same thing. It goes into fiqh, right? And then it goes into tasawwuf. The tasawwuf parts in the beginning of guidance, it speaks about rights. Rights of the father, rights of Allah, rights of the brother, rights of the spouse, rights of the community, rights of your friends. So they go into rights, right, of the people who are around you. Right? Because the main point of suluk, right, is not to speak about your own rights, right, but the main point of suluk is to speak about other people's rights. That is what it is. And that you are a person who is concerned about bringing joy, happiness, and peace to other people. That is your point. Right, so the whole point of seeking happiness for myself, that is not a tasawwuf concept. You don't go around seeking happiness for yourself. You go around being happiness to other people. Right? You are a source. Right? So, and that is the way Rasulullah was. Right? He was a source of joy, of peace, of mercy, of happiness to other people. And if you claim to be on his path, right, we must be of that lah. Right? If you claim to be on his path, right? It's amazing that I mengajar this book. It really destroys you. You just completely destroyed. You have no worth whatsoever. It goes against every kalam, every word on saying, the self is important. Basically, it goes against all of that. Like, he just destroys the need for the self. just be okay. Not being important is fine. You're not important. Who says you're important? Right? We're not important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can in the Quran, he can remove you if he wants to, and create a people who will obey him. Right? It's fine for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he wants to do that. Right. So, Muhammad. Right, and then the third one, like Habib says here, Risalah al-Mudhakara, right? Mutual reminding and good manners by Imam al-Haddad. It is also translated. All these books are translated. Book of Assistance, also translated. Right, the Path of the Worshipful Servant by Imam Ghazali, that's Minhaj al-Abidin. It is also translated. Right, we're going through it right now. And Awarif al-Ma'arif by Imam Suwardi. That one, I'm not sure if it is translated. So number 1 and number 5, they're all translated. Right, they're actually in that order. Right, they're actually in that order. But I would say that number 2, number 4, number 1, they are one in the other. Right? They're all like within each other. Right? Number 3 is a very good book to get and just place on your coffee table. Okay, it's a very good da'wah book because you can just read it. You don't need explanation. So let's place it there. So any guest that comes to your house and they're bored and there's no TV, right, they can just pick it up and read it. It's a very light read. It's easy. It's point form. It's not hard to actually digest. Right. So Imam Haddad's Mutual Reminding and Good Manners. It's a very good book to have with your guests. Right. So read some. We should make it into like culture. Try change things. You come to my house for Hari Raya, you're gonna read a book. And people can't complain because it's my house. I do what I want to do in my house. And it's good. So you can't even say that you don't even agree to this. It's mutual reminding and good manners. Inshallah. Alright, Arabic grammar. Arabic grammar is Nahu. Right, Durus al-Asas by Habib Omar is very, very basic Nahu. Al-Jurumiyah, if you can make it up to that point, Al-Jurumiyah, then you have gone quite far in your Nahu. Mutamimah al-Jurumiyah, again, it is Nahu also. Right, it's all Nahu lah. Right, so basically this is all under consideration that the person has known Arabic language. That means you have learned the Arabic language. Bising benda tu. Okay. So it's like using the Ustazah power. Okay. So Sayyidina Muhammad. Alright. وَلِيُلَاحِظْ أَنَّهُ مِمَّا يَتَّعَيَّنْ وَيُحِبْ عَلَى مُتَوَاسِطٍ مِنَ الطُّلَابِ فمن فوقهم إطلاعهم على أدلة أهل السنة والجماعة خصوصا فيما يثار فيه في العصر من مسائل للاطمئنان ثم البيان عند الحاجة فليعتنوا بالإطلاع على المثل. Right, so he goes on and he says that this is just a bit of books, right? Just a sample of books that you should study in the first few years. Right? But for us, inshallah, if once you have finished all of these books, it will have been quite a number of years. Right? It will be like about 10 years to actually finish all of these things. Right? So, if you finish, alhamdulillah. And if you can, in fact, it's not about finishing the books, it's about mastering the books. It's about applying the books. So the moment, if you're able to just apply, even something as Zikhara Musharafa, which is so simple, very small book, if you can do that, you have done great good in your life. Right? So even more, the beginning of guidance. If you can apply the beginning of guidance in your life, right, then you have applied you have gone, you'll be like one of like the saints lah of this time. Like if you can apply fully, right? So even like Minhaj al-Abidin, we are learning. Like for me, just the first few hurdles, right? Just to apply the first few is like it changes your life completely, your whole life. You haven't gone to the 8th hurdle, right? Just the first few, and your life is significantly changed for the better, inshallah. Right? So this just to go through this is there. So he goes into a few books, right, for the intermediate and the advanced students, right, who want to go into this, right, and this goes more into like subject matters that is controversial and like to argue with the people and whatsoever, which is not going to be the focus for people who are not going to these issues, right? So you don't go into these things. I myself have not gone into these books because these books, they are one thing, they are not taught in the Zahra. Right, they're only taught in Darul Mustafa. Right, so it is taught in the higher levels. Right, so for me also, I can't comment in commentary on the books because I've not taken them. Alright, so let's continue to read it. Right, so he says that it must be borne in mind that the obligation is to clarify these issues convincingly and establish a creed of truth individually, in smaller groups, and necessarily in large gatherings, with complete renunciation of any vilification, abuse, or mention of the names of individuals or groups. Any necessary discourse and presentation of evidence in these matters must observe complete sobriety and composure at all times. Alright, so basically here Habib, he goes into some books that it speaks specifically about Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah and the other side. Right, those who are against Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and he also speaks about the proofs, right, of this. So for those who are going into it, right, they can go into it. Right, but here, Habib, he actually mentions an adab of discourse and adab of argumentation. Right, so he says that وَلِيُلَاحِظُ وَيَتَنَبَّهُ أن الواجب هو التعريف والتبيين للإقناع وتثبيت عقائد الحق فرادي ومثني وفي الجماعة عند الحاجة مع اجتناب الشتائم وذكر أسماء الأشخاص والجماعات والابتعاد عن ذلك أصلا مع ملاحظة الهدوء التام في إيراد الكلام والإلقاء الحجة. This is a very important note. Right? He's speaking to people who are actually knowledgeable in the sciences. Right? But people of our day who are not even knowledgeable in the sciences, they are falling into this. Right? But he's saying that beware. Right? Make it clear in your mind that when you try to bring the truth to people, you are bringing the truth to people. That is what you are doing. That's it. Focus on that. Right? Do not mention names. Do not mention groups. Do not curse, slander, swear against people. Right? Do not kafirkan anybody. And that is the way that I've seen the Habaib. They have, if you look at any of our lectures, they never mention names. Ever. I've never heard Habib say a single person's name. Right? But he will mention the Aqidah as wrong. And he will show what is wrong in the Aqidah. Right? He will not mention entire groups, but he will just say people who believe such and such. For example, people who say that it's haram to do whatsoever. People who say other people are kafir. Right? So this is just basically like how the Quran does. The Quran describes characteristics. The Quran does not label groups, nor names. Right? But I mean, unless like Abu Lahab or whatsoever. Right? But basically, it does not label entire groups. But it's people who do such and such. That's it. Right? And then to be clear, right, in your evidence and in your presentation, and at all times you need to have hudu. Hudu is gentleness and being, soft in your voice. Right? Don't be so harsh against people. Right? And that focus. That all you want is to let them understand. That is all you want. So when it comes to argumentation with people who are against the way of the Habaib, and that's how they will describe it, those who are against the way of the Habaib, right? We don't engage with them, unless you see they are looking for the truth. If they are looking to argue, say salams and go away. That's it. And because no matter what proofs you say, they will not take it. If your then seriously, do not engage. Do not engage unless they want the truth. You must see from the way they are speaking to you. Are they looking for truth or looking just to fight, to pick a fight? Kan? So if you're not so sure, then present the truths, the proofs. So my auntie, she once asked me about Maulid. Right, and this Maulid thing in Singapore, like, it's been going on for a long time lah. This argument against it lah. Right, and my family, they are like my grandparents, they love Maulid, and my grandparents at the end of their lives, they will always go for Maulid. My grandmother was very much eloquent in singing Maulid and whatsoever, and her family were all on Maulid for a very long time until a particular group in Singapore and began to spread anti-Maulid sentiments. So some of her brothers got influenced by what was said. Right, and of course these people are very convincing in what they say. Right, so they got influenced and they stopped doing Maulid altogether. Right, so that part of my family, they don't do Maulid, but they're not against it because they know they used to do it. Right, but they just choose not to do it lah. Right, because they were influenced by this section. So my auntie, she asked me, right, about it, and I could see she was sincerely wondering. Right, because she does see her side of the family. It means not her husband is my side of the family lah. So she's her side of the family doing it. But her husband does not do it, because his father was influenced by it lah, and didn't do it. So she asked me about it sincerely, and I gave her all the proofs lah. I gave her all the proofs. She asked me about reading of Quran at the death of a person. I gave her all the proofs about that. And I said, that's all lah. That's all I have for you. That you can do the proofs, I will give you the proofs. And from then on, you can accept or you can reject. It's up to you, right? But then that's all lah. Let's give the proofs. So Quran recitation, when it comes to the date, the ulama, we have to learn lah. There is a book, right? Inshallah we can go through, right, about the proofs of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Right? And it's a very simple book. It's very thin, right? And it's made by Darul Mustafa themselves. This is Darul Mustafa made it, and Habib Umar looked over it, right? So it mentions specific issues that are being argued against today, and then the book goes by the issue first, then the proof from Quran, the proof from Sunnah, the proof from the Salaf, right, from the prior predecessors, and from all the ulama of the past. Right. So for example, and it's a book that we made to memorize in the Rozara and Darul Mustafa. So you have it at our fingertips. Right. So if anybody comes to us, we will be able to rebut. So when it comes to the Maulid, right, so they say, for example, Maulid bid'ah, right, okay, whatever lah. Right. So then proof of the Quran. There's proof in the Quran. What's the proof in the Quran? Right, what is Maulid? Maulid is a celebration of the birth of someone who is close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is Maulid. Right? Okay. The Quran speaks about the birth of Nabi Isa. That is a Maulid. By definition, it's a Maulid. The Quran speaks clearly of the celebration of the birth of Nabi Isa, of the birth of Nabi Yahya. Right? So these are celebrations that the Quran has mentioned there. And we know in the Sunnah that the Sahaba did rejoice with the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he also rejoiced at his birth by saying, fast on Monday, that was the day I was born. And there were Sahabas that sang odes and poetry to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That was undebated. Right? It has been going on in Ummah for a very long time. So there's a proof from the hadith. Then you go into the Salaf, there is no argument whatsoever in the past about the celebration of the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In fact, they used to celebrate it every single day. But our ummah, we are so weak, right, that we, towards as the tabi'in, they saw, even after them, they saw that the ummah was getting weaker and weaker. They were not remembering Rasulullah much anymore. So they made it once a year, right? We're going to talk about his birth, to remember him. That's all it was. Talk about his birth, remember. That's what a Maulid is. Right, so we will come together and we talk about his birth. Right, so and in there is what Quran. There is Quran being read in Maulids. There's Hadith being read in Maulids. It's a Sirah that's being read, and there's Dua. Right, which of the four is haram? Right, none of the four is haram. Right, so where is your hujjah? Right, what is your proof? Right, so basically, but at the beginning of the book, it does give the principles of what makes something bid'ah and what makes something not bid'ah. Right, at the beginning of the book. Right, so even reading Quran for the date and doing a whole khatam, right, nobody can say that reading the Quran is haram unless you're in the toilet. Right, I mean, other than that, you cannot logically say that anyone who's reading the Quran, unless you're on your menses lah, whatever, like, I mean, fiqh issues aside. Like, you cannot say to anybody who can read the Quran, it's haram to read Quran. You can't. Quran is always good to read no matter what. Without argument. No matter what, Quran is good to read. Right? The scholars have no argumentation on whether you can read it when a person passes away. There is a khilaf, there is a disagreement on whether the reward of the Quran goes to you or it goes to the dead. That one there's a difference of opinion between the scholars. That one there is. Whether it goes to you or to the dead is good. It goes to somebody. Right? So it doesn't go to the dead, it goes to you. Khalas. Right? What's the issue? Right? You can't call me a kafir because I read the Quran. You know, like it's so strange, right, the entire thing. So the scholars, they do say that lah. And they mention, and when they go into the Salaf, they said, I mean, there are stories whereby people of the past were against, I mean, there were scholars who were against, who said that the Quran does not reach the dead, right? And then he was seen in his dream, right, thereafter. And his student asked him, "Oh Shaykh, what has happened to you?" And he said that, "You know, I used to say the Quran does not reach the dead. It does reach the dead. Please read me some Quran right now." Right? Because I have found that it does reach the dead. Right? So Allahu Alam, right? And people can believe what they want to believe. Right? But for me, if my mom passes away, I will read for her. Right? In case it reaches her, that's a good thing. If it does not, it stays with me. And that's a good thing. Right? So what's the argument here? Why can't you do it? Right? So, mashallah, the book is a very good book, right? To actually go through the proofs, right? It's Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the proofs of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Very, very simple book. Right? InsyaAllah. Right? So, but basically it's adab. Right? And when we learn the book, the ustad, our ustadas, they tell us that this book, right, is not a weapon. They're going to go out there and attack people. Right? But basically it is a defense. Right? So if no one asks you anything, don't go out there and find fault and tell everybody they're all wrong or whatever. But it's when people begin to question you, then you say, you know what, there are soundproofs. There are soundproofs. And some of these people, they say things and they say there's no proof. There are so many proofs, ya Allah. Like the ta'weez, you know what's a ta'weez? And ta'weez is like tama'im. It's a thing whereby they pin onto babies, on the children, right? There's like black seeds in there, there's the ayat in there. Right? That was done by Sayyidina Ibn Abbas. He did it. He was the first to do it. Right? And he wrote the ayats, he pinned it onto his own child as protection. So Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, he is the scholar of this ummah. If he does not know what he's doing, nobody knows what we're doing. So if for them, they take the proof. You can. Right? Because he's known as the inkwell of his ummah. Right? And he did it to his own children. Right? So, subhanAllah, and these are proofs, right, that it can be done. The scholars have done it, but it can only be done with ayat Quran, not with anything else. Right? In the ayat Quran. Okay, right, this is the last part that I mentioned. Okay, so then we go into the third higher objective of seeking sacred knowledge. So the second one is the subject matter itself. Alright, and also to train them as they grow older on adab, right, and how they spread knowledge. Okay, the third higher objective. وسائل المقصد الثالث سبغهم بالأخلاق الكريمة. Right, so the third higher objective, it is to endow in them virtuous character. Right, that is the point of. He just like lost his balance. Alright, so Sayyidina Muhammad. Alright, so the first objective of sacred knowledge is to instill an esteem for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to instill in the heart the greatness of all that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made great. The second objective is the delivering of the knowledge itself. It's only one of the objectives. Right? The third objective is for them to have beautiful character. That is the point of knowledge. Right? And we were both like discussing, Rauda was talking about how today, like we are supposed to be more educated, but we are just so much less cultured. Right? It's sad lah, right? That with more education, the adab is lost. Right? Politeness is completely gone. Right? Teacher to student, there is no adab whatsoever now. Even to parents, zero adab. Right? It's just it's become so sad lah right now. We're supposed to be more educated, right? But there is no education whatsoever, right? Because all that they focus on is the second part, which is the deliverance of the knowledge, but no instillment of character, right? So here he says, وَهُوَ سِبْغُهُمْ بِالْأَخْلَاقِ الْكَرِيمَةِ وَذَلِكَ مِنْ أَهَمِّ الْمَقَاصِدِ. Your children and your students, you have to take these following methods and means by which you achieve this. So the first thing, أن يتلو عليهم بتكرير ما ورد في فضل الخلق الكريم وما يترتب عليه في الدنيا والآخرة وضرورة الاكتساب به وأن به تحصل البركة في العلم والتعليم والقرب من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم في الآخرة. So to always repeat to them over and over and over and over again, right, of whatever has been narrated to us from the hadith on virtuous character, right, and that and what a person stands to gain in this world and the next world, right, and the importance of gaining this grand character in a human being, right, the importance of good character. And that by this good character, it is the only way by which you are able to achieve the blessings of knowledge and studying and teaching and closeness to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the akhirah. There is no other way, right? Good character, because he was the pinnacle of good character. If you claim to be on his path, you claim to be an inheritor of his teachings, then you cannot go without good character. That is the most important thing. And there is a book that I posted on Facebook by Habib Muhammad Al-Haddar, right, on the, what do you call it? What was the title of the book? The Quest of Noble Character. It's a very good book. Subhanallah. It's such an excellent book that if you can get your hands on that book lah. Right. To Habib Muhammad Al-Haddar, he is Hababa Noor's father. And he is Habib Omar's sheikh. Right? And he was such a great person in his time that everybody was convinced that he was the Mahdi. Right? Because his name was Muhammad bin Abdullah. Right? He had the same name as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He has the lineage. Right? He has lineage on both sides. Right? And he walked around with a lot of light in his face. Habib Noor's father, he passed away quite some time ago. And just the other day was his howl. I think on Sunday. It was his howl also. On Sunday, Habib Muhammad Haddar. So he wrote a book on noble character. These are the things that we need to put on our table of the books to be placed there. So that we can read ourselves, and people who come to our house, they can read these books. Because it's very easy. I was flipping through. It's very easy to read. Right? It's very clearly laid out by Habib. And there's an entire section in there for women. One whole section he writes about women and their character. Right, so subhanallah. They really troubleshoot everything. Okay, so, and then the second thing, right, so to always repeat to them over and over again the benefit of good character, and that you have nothing if you have no good character. And Habib Omar, he will always say, right, for people today to digest, to actually take it in. Imam Al-Haddad is one of those also who has books on good character, whereby it's all taken from Imam Ghazali. All of it. The scholars have said that when Imam Ghazali has come and he has written whatever he has written, there is nothing else for us to write than to take from what he has written and just make it easier. That's all it is. Right? But all that there is in his religion is there. Imam Ghazali has written everything there is to know in his religion. It's done. It's finished. Right? But it's just basically breaking it apart, right? And making it easier onto the people. Right? What time is it? Okay, we finish at 1. Right, 3. دوام الابتسامة على وجه المعلم والمقابلة ببشاشة وطلاق الوجه مع ظهور أثر الخشوع والخشية عندما يقتضيها من تلاوة وذكر وأخبار الآخرة. Right. So this is don't be mean to them. Be gentle. Even in the reprimanding of your children, be gentle. Right? Do not ease while at the same time conveying a reverent honest and consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when the Quran is recited, when Allah is remembered, and when the akhirah is being mentioned. Right? So they need to see in their teacher, in their parents, right, a full focus, a full respect for Allah, the Quran, zikr, and anything to do with the akhirah. They must see it on you. Right? That is how you're going to teach them that these are things that are important. Right? We don't play around when it comes to these things. Right? That's the thing, Malaysia. You have a question?
So you mentioned repeat every day, right? So every day, I'm doing that. I'm scared they get turned off. Too much.
Repeat what? About the good character.
Reminding,
Just say.
Inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. Right? It's basically you're just planting the seeds. Right? So even if they get turned off or whatsoever, it will come back to them, inshallah. Right? They will come back to it. Right? But the entire delivery needs to come from gentleness, from love, from or you ask them if they know the hadith, that kind of thing. Right? So back and forth lah. Right? Engagement. And all of these things, the repeating of that means like almost to the point of nagging lah. Yeah, good character. But that is the way. To repeat, yes. To repeat to them over and over again. Or if you feel that they are old enough, for them to tell you, what is the character here? Right? What is the adab here? Can you tell me? Right? So in the sense that so they are doing the nagging onto themselves. Right? So instead of you saying it out, because unless you say it just gets blocked off. It bounces off. Right? So you make them say. Right, what was the best way to do this? What is the best thing to do it here?
Very scared of then getting turned off by hearing.
Think that is okay. Right, they need to know that they need to just know it's not okay. Even if you're not doing it, just know that it's not okay.
Can you just ignore because the other day one of the Baba was saying that let's say he has repeated so many times that he still behaved such and just ignore. And she said she did that to Abu Bakar's the Baba that brought the son.
Haba Huda. That one, what they mean by ignore, right, if I answer correctly, is that you give them the cold shoulder. It's not ignore, no, it's cold shoulder.
They know you're not happy.
Yeah.
They're not saying.
It's not ignore, it's cold shoulder. So that one works only if you know it works. Right? If you know it does not work, it doesn't work. Right? Because cold shoulder only works on some people. It doesn't work on anybody. So ignore and cold shoulder lain. Ignore is ignore, cold shoulder is cold shoulder. Right? That means you really like just show no pleasure whatsoever in your face. Right? It means they know what they did was wrong lah. For some people, for me, it works. Like my mom does it to me. It does work a lot. When she gives me the cold shoulder, straight away I will stop whatever. I mean, I will rectify lah. Right? Because I cannot tahan her cold shoulder. Depends lah. And then there's an age whereby they begin to understand the cold shoulder. Okay. So we will finish the page, then we will stop there. وَثَنَاءَ الْمُتَعَدِّلِ على من يستحقه على كل تحسن في تلاوة والحفظ والأخلاق والمستوى الفهم. مستوى الفهم. Right, so to have moderate praise. Moderate praise means praise to encourage. That's what it means. Praise to encourage deserving students, right, and those that excel in their recitation of the Quran, memorization, and virtuous character and deep understanding. It means those who are trying, right, those who are trying hard in their understanding, in memorization, right, that you give them praise to encourage them further, right, but don't praise them excessively. Right? Excessive praise can make them arrogant, right? And praise always coupled with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So alhamdulillah, Allah made you what and what. Alhamdulillah, Allah made you what and what. Allah has helped you with this. Alhamdulillah, I see Rasulullah's character on you. This is the way of Rasulullah, mashallah. And maybe that is the answer to our issue just now. Yeah, that's actually the answer. Less nagging, more praise, right? So when you see the good character, you give the praise, you give the happiness lah, right? That mashallah, right? That is exactly what Rasulullah would do, right? That kind of thing. That's what he used to teach us. Instead of saying that you are not behaving the way of the Prophet, but when they do, oh, you are behaving the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In a way, both ways. The Quran has both. The Quran has its deterrence and it has encouragements, right? So the human being needs both, right? To be deterred and to be encouraged. Okay, we'll pause there for today, right? Inshallah. Any questions? Alright, so stop there. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam Muhammadin wa ala his la naqta. So alhamdulillah rabbil alamin fatiha rizqana wa nafam. Assalamu alaikum wa ala shaykhina wa ala hadra nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam Fatiha.